I'm Myriam Sfeir from the Arab Institute for Women at the Lebanese American University, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the third global conversation marking International Women's Day and organized by Athena40, a platform that was launched by the London-based nonprofit Global Thinkers Forum. So Athena40 is a platform connecting and recognizing women from around the world. It was created to democratize recognition for women and to bring to the spotlight grassroots women and women making an impact. This event is an international event, the only one of its kind, with panel discussions taking place in parallel across different cities around the world. We're very excited to be part of it and host our panel in Beirut, Lebanon. So we have more than 60 speakers who will connect live from around the world to discuss female leadership in times of crisis and the transformative role women play in times of emergencies. The conversation will be centrally moderated from London under BBC World's Tim Wilcox, who will connect live with all cities and panels to get a sense of how the pandemic has affected us, where the major challenges and opportunities for women lie, who are the real change makers, and what can be done to promote gender rights, diversity, and inclusion. So for now, I will leave the floor to our Executive Director, Dr. Lina Abirafeh, who's joining us from New York, very cold New York, to welcome you all in her way and tell you more about International Women's Day and the work that we do at the Arab Institute for Women at the Lebanese American University. Lina, the floor is yours.
Myriam, thank you. One of my favorite feminists of all time. And I'm delighted and honored to be joined by so many dynamic women, extraordinary fighters, allies in the struggle, sisters in solidarity. Thank you all so much. Female leadership in times of crisis. What can I actually say about that? Because simply existing as a woman in the world is a crisis right now. That's a very sobering way to start because we do actually live in perpetual crisis. I feel like there are so many ways in which we continue to be unequal, discriminated against, marginalized, and not able to fully participate in all aspects of social life, economic life, political life, leadership and decision-making. We have less choice, we have less voice, and we continue to be burdened by the responsibilities of rectifying this and rising to the challenge in crisis after crisis. It is actually exhausting. So for this International Women's Day, my message is quite sobering. But I also want to break this title down because in many ways I love it. I love talking about who are the female leaders? You know, are these the women who are in power or in politics or in decision making? Actually not. I think these are the young women. These are the women who are going to carry forward and who are going to finish the work that we haven't been able to finish. No pressure, young women, but I see you out there on the street. I see you in your lives. I see you in your homes. I see you in classrooms and in the workplace, and you do not take any crap. And I love it. And I'm so impressed and inspired. And I can't wait to retire so you all can take it over. You know, International Women's Day, March 8th, here we are again. It's been 110 years. And actually, when the original people took to the streets 110 years ago, on this very day, the 8th of March, to demand their rights to equality in the workplace, to vote, all of those things that we actually are still fighting for 110 years later. All of this to say that there is a dynamic little place that I'm very fond of called the Arab Institute for Women at the Lebanese American University that has been fighting that fight for 48 years. So almost half the time that we've been commemorating International Women's Day. What is extraordinary about the Arab Institute for Women is that it works at the intersection of academia and activism and really is a place to nourish young leaders, not leaders of tomorrow, because everybody's a leader in their own right. And so that's one thing that we really celebrate across the range of academic programs, research, development and community projects, outreach, workshops, everything that we do. But the thing is, the underlying principle of our work is that we are nowhere near equality and rights. And we actually need to see them materialize right now. You know, the UN gives us a lot of good language. We had the UN Charter, 1945, that said equality was the thing, and that's what we wanted to see. Well, here we are, Beijing, 25 years, Women, Peace and Security, 20 years, SDG 5 years, and time is moving and moving, and we're not getting where we need to be. I don't need to tell you what's happening in the world. I don't need to tell you that the majority of kids out of school are girls, that child marriage continues, that women's unemployment is high, that women do the majority of unpaid work, that we have less access to power and leadership and decision making. And for those of you who know me, I've worked on violence against women for 20 years, and I don't need to tell you that 1 in 3 women and girls are going to experience some form of violence in their lifetime. We know these things. There are 100 people in this virtual room, maybe more. I have no idea. But all of us are here because we believe in it. We're not here because it's the 8th of March. We're here because we do this every day, all the time. And I find it exhausting how we need to continue fighting when rape continues as a weapon of war. Look at the Tigray crisis. Sexual harassment is perpetuated by powerful men with impunity. Our New York governor, Andrew Cuomo. Sexual slavery in Yemen, honor killings in Jordan, the wage gap, sexual harassment, no women's engagement in peace and security. So for me, when people come and tell me, well, hey, it's happy International Women's Day, I'm not happy at all. I'm not happy with the current state of affairs. I'm not happy with what I see as cards and flowers and events and celebrations that we actually have to plan for ourselves, which I find to be a particular insult. And tick box showcases of diversity on this day, as if this is the only day. I have to say that I have all the right merchandise as well. I do everything in favor of my feminist interests. I have the right coffee that I'm drinking this morning. It's very early in New York. We're just getting started. I have a mug that you might not be able to read that says, "The future is female." No, well, actually, I don't really accept this mug because the future is not female, because that would mean by default that the present is male. The past certainly was male, but I dispute what the present is actually. So the point is that I am starting off this discussion in a way that is deflated and not happy at all about the status quo, and not happy at all about the idea that our theme is to choose to challenge, when people like you and I have not chosen this. We do this every single day, all the time. It's not a choice. It is a duty. It is a global imperative, and it is non-negotiable. We have already been doing the work. We haven't chosen it. We've been doing it for decades. We are the ones who are here every day anyway. I recently made a calculation that I've been working on women's rights for 25 years. 25 years. So every day that I've worked on women's rights is Women's Day, as far as I can say. And that means 9,125 women's days. So really, where are we? We've given the world the best possible arguments that we can about economic prosperity if you include women, about peace as more sustainable if you include women, about productivity, about country GDP, about human rights, about sustainability, about development, about progress. But where's the principle? I mean, I personally don't need this one day to refuel for the fight that I take on all the time, or to celebrate all of you, my feminist sisters, who would be here anyway, whether it was the 8th of March or not. Because actually, International Women's Day really is every single day for all of us. And it won't be happy International Women's Day until we're truly equal. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina. So, as Lina said, the year 2020 was full of challenges in general and challenges more for Lebanon. We had economic insecurities, civil unrest, a massive explosion, the COVID-19 pandemic, you name it. As the year 2021 unfolds, it's apparent that these challenges show no signs of abating and in fact are likely to increase, amplifying pre-existing vulnerabilities and further taxing an already suffering population. The country has been dealing with a global pandemic, a deadly blast that destroyed the city, an economic crisis that has led to the deterioration of the Lebanese lira, salary cuts, high employment rates, and women and vulnerable groups were the first affected by all of these layered crises. They have lost livelihood and financial security. Women and marginalized groups were forced to enter into the informal economy for survival. Women have taken on a further burden of care, everything related to COVID-19, the responsibilities tripled, their mental health deteriorated, and they face increasing violence as a result of these insecurities. Intimate partner violence has skyrocketed this year, Further, and last year as well, further, women's rights have diminished on the level of health, the economy, security, social protection, to mention a few. Yet, amidst all these challenges that have robbed women of their rights, and despite all the impediments and adversaries, women are leading the change. They are at the front lines fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, heading social change movements, campaigning for the amendment of laws, and fearlessly speaking out against gender discrimination in the media. Their powerful voices should be heard, their resistance should be saluted, and their activism should be celebrated. Given that conversations around promoting, given all that, conversations around promoting more women into decision-making roles should be spoken about, and it's very timely to advocate for that more than ever. We need feminists in decision-making positions. And I'm delighted to introduce to you some exceptional women, change makers, who I'm proud to say are friends, who will share their stories and insights with us today. Thank you for joining us. So I will start by introducing you. So let me give you the drill. What's going to be happening is I'm going to introduce you, and we will start the conversation until I have to connect to relay to London what's happening, and then we'll reconnect and discuss, and then I will relay back to them and tell them what we have concluded from all the conversation, and then we can continue the conversation with Q&A. So I will start with Mia Atoui. Mia is a clinical psychologist, a social entrepreneur, and co-founder and president of Embrace. Everyone recently in Lebanon have heard of Embrace and the leading role they are doing in terms of mental health, and it's an NGO in Lebanon. She has worked in the field of mental health for the past 10 years and is a published researcher in the field. Since 2013, she has been active in addressing stigma and awareness around mental health in Lebanon, working in coordination with the Ministry of Public Health and multiple and local international organizations to lobby for equity of care in mental health, quality rights for persons with lived experiences with mental illness, and implementing projects across sectors with the aim of improving mental well-being for individuals and communities. She has extensive experience in suicide prevention in Lebanon and has been leading and advocating for Lebanon's national emotional support and suicide prevention and helpline, Embrace Lifeline 1564. She is also an active member in civil society and conducts training to local communities and organizations across Lebanon. And the list is so long, so I will stop here. We have also Amani. So Amani Beainy is a feminist legal researcher, and everyone has heard her name in Lebanon and maybe abroad as well. So she specializes in public law and arbitration, and she's a political, human rights, and environmental activist. She's a champion of sustainability and the co-founder of the national campaign, Save the Bisri Valley campaign. Amani have 7 years of experience working on gender issues, and she focuses on enhancing women's participation in decision-making at the national and local level. She's also an active member of the Women International League for Peace and Freedom, WILF, as well as a member of the Standing Constitution Committee. Currently, she is running a study about the alternative economy and climate justice in the Arab region with the Arab Forum for Alternative and Greenpeace MENA. Also, Amani is a writer, poet, painter, and a beekeeper. I also have with me Youmna Makhlouf, a lawyer, researcher, and member of the General Assembly at the Legal Agenda. I think we all agree that the Legal Agenda is one of the reasons why we still believe in anything in Lebanon. Their work is groundbreaking, and I salute them for everything they're doing. Youmna has publications, a member of the Legal Agenda since 2010. She's a PhD candidate in law at the University of Paris 2, Panthéon Assas. Her dissertation examines the question of the identity of the individual in the Lebanese private law. She is also an instructor and researcher at the Faculty of Law at St. Joseph University of Beirut. Youmna is also an attorney at the Beirut Bar Association. Her work, publication, and research focuses on gender identity, and maybe gender identity, nationality, family, personal status laws, and religious law. Then I have Carol Mansour, who is a renowned filmmaker. She is an independent documentary filmmaker, as she calls herself. She founded Forward Film Production in 2000 in Beirut, Lebanon. She has over 25 years of experience in documentary production. She has international recognition and honor for the films that she's done. She has participated in over 50 film festival screenings and official selections worldwide. Her films have screened at several festivals in Europe, North America, and have won numerous prestigious awards, including most recently the Best Documentary Award at the Delhi International Film Festival, and other awards as well. I will not, you're very modest, Carol, I know, I will not mention them all. Carol's work reflects her concern for human rights and social justice, covering issues such as migrant domestic workers, refugees, environmental issues, mental health, the right of the disabled, war and memory, the people's right to health, child labor. And her most recent documentaries are Shattered Beirut, 607, which discusses the aftermath of the Beirut port explosion, and COVID Diary that she did jointly with Daraj. And it talks about the effect of the lockdown on herself. It's a personal testimony. Last but not least, a very dear friend, Janam Adlib, a journalist and documentary producer and director with over 27 years of experience in covering dangerous conflict zones. She's written and produced several stories in the Middle East about that. Her war coverage included Lebanon, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Yemen. Diana directed and produced very many documentaries that tackled socio-political issues in the region and around the world. She's discussed women's rights, minority rights, and many other topics. She started her career in 1993 as a general news reporter at Future TV, where she covered news, political issues, and social issues. And in 1999, she was one of the few that talked about women's issues in a documentary manner in a series called Bil'ain Mujarrada that we still benefit from now up until today, and one of my only favorites. She's covered hot political and social topics in conflict zones, and she's done very many documentaries that have discussed issues related to divorce, like Against Me, femicide, like An Latifa wa Ukhrayat, about Latifa and others. In 2017, Diana, along with two other founders, launched Daraj Media, an independent media platform that addresses controversial issues that are underreported in the Arab region. Diana is also a columnist for several publications, and if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the issues that, or a lot of the pieces that were sponsored by Daraj won several awards, and Daraj has won also an award for its independent coverage of a lot of issues that are hush-hush. So I still have 5 minutes, so I think we start with the first question, because, and then I will start and then we will be interrupted. I'm sorry about that. So I will start with Mia, and can we hear from you, Mia, about yourself, the work that you do? Actually, I need maybe a personal statement or story that has defined you and who you are today. So you all have 3 minutes. Mia, the floor is yours.
I'll be brief, I think. I'm a Lebanese woman. I always start with that. Lebanon is very dear to my heart, even though I was not born here, but I never left for the last 33 years. I've been working in the field of mental health for the past 10 years. And I have to say that my work focuses really on making this country a safer place for everyone to be able to live in. Because we know that good safety and good mental health allows everybody to prosper and grow and to reach their own potential. In the last few years, with the difficult situations that we've been going through in Lebanon, we're really focusing much more on the interconnectedness between health and the socioeconomic conditions that we're living in. And I think these two can never be put apart, even though for so many years, mental health has been looked at from the medical model, but today we're trying to really look at it from the socioeconomic perspective as well, and try to merge both. I'm someone who has been really very much empowered by her own parents, both my mom and my dad. And I want to mention that since it's International Women's Day today, and say that I had a really strong backbone. And I think most of my achievements today are also owed to my dad and his encouragement. We come from a family of 5 girls, and I think he did a great job at allowing us all to really reach our potential as much as we can.
Thank you, Mia. So I'll go now to Amani. Same question.
It's a great honor for me to be granted this opportunity to send a message through you to the world as an environmental and activist and peace activist in this remarkable occasion, especially in this difficult circumstance that our world and Lebanon is passing through. I'm a legal researcher specializing in public law and arbitration, but first I'm feminist. And in my 7 years of rounded experience working on gender issues, I focused on enhancing women's participation in decision-making at the national and the local level. I co-founded the national campaign to save the Beirut Valley. But my passion for peace and human rights are behind my commitment to building a better future. Whether it is protecting this environment, peace, or women's rights, they all stem from the same part from within me. Also, being a member of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, WILF, has shaped my activism. It's an international organization that has played an important role in calling for full and equal participation of women in decision-making processes as a cornerstone for achieving sustainable peace. In addition, I had an experience with a woman whom I consider a role model, Mrs. Noha Hussaini, who was the president of the Federation of Municipalities of Shuf Swayjani. During this period, I had to witness the daily struggles of a woman working in public sphere under a political system that favors clientelism. And also I was lucky and privileged to have known a pioneer of international feminist movement, the late Anissa Najjar, who created the WILF Lebanon section. Really, my activism to save the Beirut Valley was a turning point in my life. There were plans to construct a controversial dam in the Beirut Valley area. The project would have had a detrimental impact on the environment. So I started by creating a Facebook page to highlight the local opposition to the Beirut Dam, which later turned into a national campaign to save the Beirut Valley through the support of Lebanon's Eco Movement and Civil Society Association. Through our efforts and continuous struggle, we saved one of Lebanon's most remarkable natural and cultural heritage from a crime.
So you were saying, you were talking about the Beirut campaign.
Yes, so through our efforts and continuous struggle, we saved one of Lebanon's most remarkable natural and cultural heritage from a crime committed against humanity, threatening safety, social and climate justice, the Beirut Dam. The Beirut Dam project could be considered a microcosm of the widespread corruption in Lebanon. Thus, we consider the cancellation of the World Bank funding a victory for the October 17 revolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amani, and I apologize again for interrupting you. So Youmna, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for having me today. I am very happy to be sharing this panel with all of the magnificent women who are present and who I consider to be partners in my everyday work. I have followed the work of each and every one of these women, and I am very happy of the work they do, and they are fundamental partners in what we do on all levels in Lebanon. So I'm Youmna, I'm a lawyer, I'm a researcher and a member of Legal Agenda. It was very difficult thinking of a story that would define me because there are so many stories that define us and keep on defining us every day. But I was hearing everyone talk before me, and just like Mia, I have 4 sisters, so I come from a family of women with a working mother who was a very strong figure. But when I when I thought about the story to tell, it was more about when I started working as a lawyer. And I remember I felt like Candide from Voltaire's book, where I thought that everything was perfect and all people or individuals were equal in front of the law, etc. And I started finding out when I started practicing how much this was an illusion and how much we needed to fight for everything. And just as Lina was saying, we keep on fighting every day. And I had a divorce case in a religious court. I was defending the woman. And I remember the husband who kept on talking and talking and talking in front of a panel of judges, all men. And all of these men had this posture looking at my client and waiting, actually looking for every movement that she would do while he was talking. And my client was not actually reacting. She would not speak up. She would not stop him. She would not say that he was saying lies, that it was not true what he was discussing. She would not actually translate what she had suffered in her private life. And of course, I defended her, but I could see that the words that I was saying were not sufficient to convince these panels that they needed actually to hear everything from her. And when we finished the hearing, I had a talk with her, and I told her that I could not defend her. She had to defend herself, and people needed to hear from her what she had lived. And this was the only way for her to win the case. And on the second hearing, she did not shut up. She started talking and she wouldn't stop talking, and I could see how the judges shifted. And so this was a turning point in my career, because I understood actually that as a lawyer, it is not my job to speak instead of the people I would defend or the woman that I was defending. It was my job actually to accompany them, to show them and to lead them into the legal world, which is a legal that puts on a lot of obstacles towards vulnerable people and vulnerable individuals. And actually my role was to translate this, to lead them into the legal world, to lead them into the battlefield actually, and to give them just the weapons that they can use in this battle world. But the fight is theirs, and I am only here actually to accompany them. So this is what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you, Youmna. Carol?
Yani after hearing Youmna, I really don't know what to say. Honestly, Youmna, you're a good lawyer. I will hire you if I need one. Hopefully not. Thank you all. And I'm as proud as Youmna to be part of this panel with these great women. I'm Lebanese with Palestinian origins, both my parents. I actually prefer to identify myself as a human being first, as a human first, and then as a woman. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I discovered this passion after working 10 years in a TV station. I was behind the camera and in front of the camera. I was a director, editor, producer, host. I even hosted, people like Raghib Alemi, just so you know. So I'm a multifaceted person. Then I discovered in 2000, I was on a trip to Cairo, and a friend of mine had just opened a shelter for children and street children, basically. And this is when I discovered that I hated TV, and I just wanted to do something more personal and to, bring the voices of these people out. So I came back to Cairo with the camera, and I shot my first personal documentary called 100% Asphalt. And I discovered my love for documentaries, for telling story, for, letting people hear, these stories. As Myriam said, I work with refugees. Well, anybody, where there is a ta'tir, like we say, this is my field. I work with the woman, Mona Khalidi, so we're a team of 2. So vive les femmes. Voila, this is my story.
Diana.
Thank you, Myriam. It's hard to speak after all these lovely and encouraging women. I'm a Lebanese journalist. Just like many of you, my childhood, my upbringing affected me so much. I lived in a very traditional family. So my upbringing taught me that women should dress properly, women should watch how they speak, how they dress, how they behave. And they are responsible for so many sins in the world. So when I wasn't in Lebanon. My father used to work in Saudi Arabia, so I was born and lived there. We came back to Lebanon in the 80s when I started discovering the country, and then I studied journalism. I started my own revolution, internal revolution, where I refused what I was taught or I was brought up on. So I started seeing the world differently. And my upbringing affected so much how I covered news and stories. It meant a lot to me to look for women, not only in Lebanon, all over, wherever I can manage. I started doing stories on women in the mid-90s. At that time, we didn't have social media, we didn't have that much of coverage when it comes to women issues. So I started working on women's stories. I was affected, but with my personal experience. So I started looking for women in Iran, in Jordan, in Lebanon, and in Afghanistan. To me, that was a personal reflection that women should not suffer from what I thought was normal, which is not normal, and women, they should have their own voices. I share so much with Youmna, what she said, that she, as a lawyer, she tried to give women, to let women regain their voices. My role was to help women speaking up, helping them tell their stories. I think this is what me and people like Carol and even Youmna and all of you are trying to do. Tell the stories of the women who were never heard, who were never listened to, and who didn't dare and who never dared to speak their stories. So to me, telling the stories of women who were beaten up, killed, or impoverished or discriminated against was something very crucial to speak up and say that these injustices should not continue. And today is just another day where we keep moving and we keep going through these daily battles. So this is in a nutshell how I started, and I will keep doing this, and I will never stop as long as I live. So this is briefly who I am.
What can I say? This is so inspiring, really. And I'm so proud to have said that we at the Arab Institute for Women have worked with all of you in your own capacity. And I'm in awe of what you do. And I will move now to Mia to talk about the transformative work that you did at Embrace, especially in light of the crisis. So if you can tell us a bit about the work that you did and the biggest challenges and lessons learned as a result of the pandemic. How did you in your line of work operate bearing in mind that the protracted crisis has affected us all, bearing in mind the pandemic, the Beirut blast, etc. The floor is yours.
Thanks. Thanks, Myriam. Actually, like all levels, mental health has been really escalating. Concerns about mental health have been escalating in the past year or so. And working or operating a suicide hotline means that you always need to be prepared for emergencies. And I think we will be addressing women leadership and how women have been dealing with crises. And I think one of the main characteristics, first of all, Embrace is a woman-led organization. Most of the ladies here who operate at different levels are in leadership positions, and this has helped us because we are proactive, we plan in advance. We don't wait until the crisis happens, until we start working on finding solutions. We've always done that since day one, since we launched the hotline 3 years ago, but also through our work in the last 8 years at Embrace in terms of advocacy and lobbying and mental health awareness. So it has not been difficult to operate during the crisis because it's something that we prepared for, and we're constantly anticipating the next crisis and making sure that we're ready for it. In that sense, it has not been difficult. But again, similar to what all Lebanese citizens have been experiencing, it has been very difficult to work with mental health when everybody is suffering, when everybody has their own struggles. And I think this has been our most difficult challenge. Our operators, our NGO is really led by youth who are mostly Lebanese and non-Lebanese, who are like everyone else suffering from the difficulties that we're going through socioeconomically. And they have to leave everything behind and come and volunteer and be the first line responders. They are also some of those heroes who are unspoken of and who do the work silently behind these phone lines. They have to put aside all of their struggles, their anxieties, during COVID, their worries about their parents, to come in and take calls from people who are also struggling. And this has been one of our biggest challenges. And after the Beirut blast, it also did not get easier, you can imagine, when they were half torn between working on the ground, helping people in the crisis, and also coming in and taking phone calls from people who are in distress while they are going through their own pains and emotional aches. So these are some of the biggest challenges we've had to go through. And as I mentioned in my introduction, mental health really today is very much affected by our living conditions. And many of our team members really talk about the frustrations they have to go through when they need to support these people emotionally and psychologically, when at the other hand, there are so many limitations that they are listening to or hearing over the phone, where they feel that they want to intervene more at a different level. And I think some of the work being done here by the ladies, all of them, we're working together directly or indirectly to try to support some of these challenges that we're facing at the national level. I do believe that the work we do is transformative, of course, because first of all, we are a youth-led organization. We have around 120 volunteers who operate the national hotline. And I have to say that they are the driving force behind our work. They are one of the reasons that I feel excited and optimistic and able to work every day. And a lot of people ask me, how do you keep the optimism? I think it's probably because of them. And it's also working with Embrace has also been giving them their own drive and motivation, first of all, to stay in the country and to keep on trying to bring about change. Every day they come in, they speak to a stranger completely, someone they don't know, and they work on helping them just to hold on to, a thread of hope to be able to continue to move on. Working here has also been changing their own lives as well as changing the lives of the people that they're working with. I think the feedback that we get from the people that we're helping on a daily basis is also transformative on its own, because the challenges we are against are really way beyond our capacity to handle, but we still push through despite these difficulties.
Thank you, Mia. And we know that you've been catering more to women than men simply because calls were coming in from women more than men, over and above that from migrant domestic workers. If we still have the time, we'll get back to that when I take the round. So Amani, how has the work you've done been transformative? Especially, we know what happened with the Beainy campaign.
Yes. Our environmental struggle is a major step for social and climate justice, part of the struggle for peace. That peace is the sacred goal that all humanity seeks, impossible to achieve without achieving harmony between people and the environment. The intervention of humans by destructive and chaotic projects causing pollution and destroying the major component of life from air, water, and soil will threaten the future of humankind and cause more epidemics and diseases. The Beainy Dam could have destroyed the only remaining exceptional agriculture landscape in Mount Lebanon and could have threatened the food security and economic activities of citizens. Not to forget the destruction of more than 80 historical sites dating back to Bronze Age, the second most important flyway of migrant birds in Lebanon, and the unique biodiversity in the region. Moreover, the construction of this dam was to overlay an intersection of two active seismic faults that could have potentially triggered a catastrophic earthquake and threatened the safety and security of all Lebanese citizens. For all these reasons, and given that we had a problem of pollution and water management, as well as lack of public policies and development strategies, it was my duty as a Lebanese woman and peace and human rights activist to stand against such a crime that demonstrates political corruption in Lebanon. Here came our famous slogan, "Over our dead bodies." These reasons behind our, or the reason behind our victory was the solidarity and the coordination between a network of different actors, NGOs, legal and environmental experts, journalists. And please let me highlight here the efforts of the legal agenda and the activists from all Lebanon. On a personal level, this struggle cost me my work because of my political stance. On the other hand, both my physical safety and psychological well-being were compromised. I was cyberbullied and even arrested for investigation. All these challenges didn't stop us from resuming our general goal to protect our environmental and cultural heritage for future generations. This is where women have a fundamental role in achieving sustainable development. In order to sustain this change, our ultimate goal is to build an alternative political system built on ethics, integrity, transparency, and accountability, where women have a leading role in all decision-making processes. In this new system, civil society organizations, especially feminist movements, have a leading role in monitoring and evaluating public policies through public debates. Thank you, Myriam.
Thank you, Amani. This is really, this is one of the successes that we had and gave us positive insight to move forward and to think that some things sometimes change and it's not that nothing changes. So Youmna, I move to you. So where we talk about the transformative, how transformative the work that you do is and the biggest challenges and lessons learned thus far during the pandemic in line of the work that you're doing at the legal agenda and on a personal level. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I think it's very hard actually to know how much your work is transformative or not. I think that in this pandemic, what it has revealed, not just the pandemic, but also the explosion, is how much we are still far away. Of course, we are fighting and we are advancing, but there's a lot to be done. And we show actually, we have seen actually an increase in domestic violence during these times. Not just, I mean, we saw the reports through the hotlines. Mia was just talking about how much she had women that were calling. I have experienced it individually as a lawyer, where I would get messages from women who were abused, with an increase of abuse and exploitation and no means of communication. I mean, we had to go through the WhatsApp messages because the women could not even talk on the phone or could not even meet in order to discuss what they are living and the possible, I mean, what actions they could do actually. We also saw a rise in like obstacles in visitation rights, where we had fathers bring on the COVID excuse in order not to let women see their children. We saw, when we saw the political discourse about domestic work, unpaid domestic work, how much we have seen from politicians saying that in these times it's not a problem, women can do their job and go into domestic work, etc., etc. And so this all actually showed how much in times of crisis the relation, I mean, the exploitation and abuse systems and work actually against vulnerable populations. I think that what I have seen a lot in my work in cases of domestic violence and cases of divorce is how much financial independence is important, and we can work a lot on changing the laws. We can push for it. We can, I mean, we have had victories in the domestic violence law, etc. But when we look at what things happen practically, it's very, very difficult. Even when you have a legislation that could help you achieve that, we still have a lot to go, because one, you have the issue of financial independence, which is very important. And two, you have the issue of the minds of the judges. Even when you have a woman judge, it does not mean that she will be more, that she will be more understanding of domestic violence issues, because we need to understand actually that when we talk about gender roles, these gender roles are enriched in our mind and in our way of living, not just as men, but also as men and women. And we are all actually the result of these gender roles and the cultural roles that we have. So I think that the most important thing is to reveal this, and we are pushing, and it's very important to come in front of the judge, to come in front of the legislator and tell him you are doing this and this and this, and this shows a discrimination, and this shows how you are actually exploiting and abusing. So the first thing is to deconstruct all of these gender relationships, but a lot of work has to be done because it is not sufficient. We still have a lot to go in order to strengthen and empower individuals.
So I'm taking notes. I agree fully, especially on the level of what happened with the Manal Asi case, etc. So, Carol, the floor is yours.
I'm always the one, I always come after Youmna, who is so eloquent. Okay, never mind.
So Carol fought with me, and when I was talking about this panel, she's like, I have nothing to say. I do films. I don't want to talk. I do films.
Okay,
and
no,
I
actually,
had
I actually decided instead of talking to show you a small part of what I personally am going through during the lockdown. Okay, the first and the second and the third. And as Myriam said, I'm a documentary filmmaker. Most of the films the last 8 years have been in close collaboration with Moukalled and its long feature films. So when the lockdown started, my very good friend Daraj, Diana and company asked me if I would do a small 5-minute film in collaboration with IMS to show what I was going through. I'm going to just show you 2 minutes and you will understand what I went through, okay? But first I need to share the screen.
Yalla, we have our guru Mufida, who will help you do that.
Yes, because she actually host disabled. Can I, Guru Mufida, can I share my screen? It's not letting me.
Let me see what I can do. Is it fine?
Yes.
Perfect.
So it's 5 minutes. I'm showing you like this is the 3rd minute maybe, but you will understand a little bit more.
1,000,000% معها حق. أنا كمان بكره البرا ومبسوطة قاعدة بالبيت كل نهار بلا برا، عم بشتغل على مشاريع ما كنت ملحق عليها، لدرجة إنه ما عم بحس بالوقت كيف عم بيمرق بهالسرعة.
Post Corona إنه أكيد أشياء رح تتغير، بس ما بعرف شو رح تتغير. On my side, I'm going to move out because it was really nice to be isolated with all my family, and I think I've had enough.
أنا على صعيد شخصي اكتشفت إنه ما بحب أعيش لحالي. اكتشفت قد إيه بتوترني العجقة وقد إيه بحب أمشي بشوارع بيروت الفاضية. اكتشفت قد إيه بكره البرا. اكتشفت إنه ما عايزة كل التياب اللي عندي وإنه فيني أعيش بالبيجاما. اكتشفت إنه ما اشتقت لشي غير إنه عبط أصحابي. اكتشفت إنه عم بكتشف حالي. هيك كأنه كبسنا على بوز بعدني لهلأ مبسوطة بهالبوز، بس ميتي رعبة من يلي جاية.
لحظة. So basically, this was the first lockdown when I felt really very happy to be locked down. I locked down myself with Mona at home and her 3 children, the 2 cats, Carleen, and it was, very small circle. I was very happy working on my stuff, filming every day. Then COVID hit home actually, and my father passed away from COVID in Montreal in May. And I was in Lebanon, unable to speak with him, unable to see him. And this is what COVID meant at that time. This is what the lockdown meant for me at that time. We're not going to go dramatic now. I don't know if you want to watch a part of the film that actually Daraj asked me to. Youmna came, not Youmna, sorry, Youmna, I'm obsessed with Youmna. Diana and Hazim and Alia came and asked me to talk in front of the camera about what the effect of the death of my father, being away. And I just said, no, just give me 2-3 weeks and let me do a short tribute. So I went into, my memories, my pictures. It took me like 3 weeks digging into my life. And I came up with a 5-minute tribute to my father. But I think we were talking about what COVID, how the work changed. So I don't know if I'm off the subject right now, Myriam.
Nothing is really off the subject because this is, this is the work that you do. If you'd like, we can see it. And if not, then you can tell us a bit about
You have to tell me if you want. It's on YouTube. So Una is telling me just put it.
Yes, because you want to put it. So yes. Yes. So you will put it?
Yes, I'm going to put it.
Perfect.
What happened?
من آمن بي وإن مات.
I'm sorry. Something, I'm not able to share screen. Is it possible? Or you're all gone?
No, we can see your screen when you are sharing it, but now no.
Oh, you can see my screen when I'm sharing it. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. 1 second. It will take me exactly. COVID films. Okay. And now you can see?
No.
وإن مات فسيحيا. زوجته المرحومة عايدة عبود. أبناؤه الدكتور مايكل وعائلته، روبير وعائلته، ابنته كارول وعائلتها، شقيقه جابي وعائلته، عائلة شقيقته المرحومة إيفات هاشم. ينعون إليكم بمزيد من الحزن والأسى فقيدهم الغالي المأسوف عليه المرحوم ميشيل أنيس منصور، المنتقل إلى رحمته تعالى يوم السبت ب2 أيار بمونريال كندا. مش أكيد كيف بدي كمل. ما في تقبل تعازي، ما في صلاة على روحه، ما في تجمع للأصحاب والعائلة ليحكوا عنه. هون توقف ورقة النعوة. أبو الميش كان حداً بحب الحياة، كريم، خدوم، بحب الناس، بحب الكاس، بيساعد الكل، شغيل، محبوب من الكل، كبار وصغار، يلي اشتغلوا عنده بالتيفولي، يلي اشتغل معون، الناطور، الجيران، المكوجي، التكنجي، ما في حدا ما كان يحبه. كيف يعني حدا مثله يموت لوحده؟ ما حدا يمسك له ايده، ما حدا يحكي معه، ما حدا يغني له، ما حدا يطمنه انه رايح يلاقي عايدة والاصحاب. انا بفتكر كنت غنيت له، كنت حكيت له قصص، كنت قلت له قد ايه كان بي عظيم، كنت ضليتني حده لحد ما يتوفى. كل يوم بنسمع عن أعداد الإصابات وعن ناس ماتت من الكورونا، بس ما كنت أتخيل بحياتي إنه معقول يكون بيي واحد من هالأرقام. أنا ماشي اليوم على بيروت. اليوم رايحة؟ إيه. Et je reviens le mois prochain. اوكي حبيبتي. اوكي. موفق ان شاء الله. بدك شيء من بيروت؟ بدي سلامتك. ميرسي. موفق، دير بالك على حالك بس. حدير انت كمان دير بالك على حالك. ايوه بدير بالي على حالي انا غصب عني. في صدمة الخسارة وفي صدمة ووجع فكرة إنه حدا مثله مات لحاله. شو كان حاسس؟ هل كان عارف شو عم بيصير له؟ بشو كان عم بيفكر؟ هل تعذب؟ هل كان موجوع؟ كلها أسئلة ما عندي إجابة عليها، رح تضل معي لباقي حياتي. اجينا خبر قبل أسبوع من وفاته إنه بلش يتعب، إنه صار عم بينام كتير، بعدين بلش يسعل، بعدين طلع إنه لاقط الكورونا. حطوه بغرفة لوحده وبلشوا يعطوه مورفين. آخر مرة شفته يعني عن جد كان لما رحت على كندا ب8 آذار، وآخر مرة شفته على التليفون كان 3 أيام قبل ما يتوفى. سمحوا لفانيسا بنت أخته تروح تزوره. طبعاً كان ممنوع تقرب على التخت، ممنوع تمسك له إيده، كان غافي من أثر المورفين. منظر بقطع القلب. قضينا 1.5 ساعة معه، ما قدرت غني له، بس حاولت طمنه، ودعته، قلت له قدي بحبه وقدي رح اشتاق له. ما تجاوب معي، كان نايم. بتأمل بس إنه كان عم يسمعني.
Thank you, Carol, for sharing this with us. Thank you, Daraj, for making all this happen. And now I will move to Diana to talk about their transformative work. You already saw some of the transformative work that they do. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for all the women who shared their stories. It inspired us. It affected us all. I am a person who reflects what sees around me. So basically, my work, I've been working as a journalist for the past 28 years. In the first 10 years, I was exploring, covering issues related to domestic workers, to violence against women. But as I progressed with time, I started focusing on one major topic, which I think is crucial to women's rights, which is the personal status laws in Lebanon and in the region, not only in Lebanon. As you all know, in Lebanon, we have 15 personal laws that all discriminates against women. So I started working on these laws by reflecting how they are affecting women's life when it comes to custody, marriage, early marriage, violence, all the topics that women suffer from. So to me, starting doing these films, and we have done several ones, and not only in Lebanon, in Daraj, which was launched in 2017, we covered this topic across the region, because this is where you find, where the core of this discrimination starts. When you tell a woman that you have no equal rights, you have no right to divorce yourself or to go out of the house if you don't have the permission of your husband. So as integrated these discriminations in our lives, as strong it is, we try to face it by showing the story, telling how it affects the lives of these women. And we see a huge struggle that many refuse to make this situation change. We find a huge resistance in Lebanon not to allow these laws to be changed. To me, doing these films and creating debate around it, online and offline, the films I did, one of them is called Against Me or Diddi. We took it and we moved to different universities, talking to young people in rural areas, in different closed circles. To me, the discussion that was created by talking to people directly and telling young men and women how these laws are affecting the lives of how it might affect their own lives in the future is essential. I know it's a long path. Unfortunately, in Lebanon, we try to escape facing the big elephant in the room, which is the status laws, by trying to modify things, by trying to say, okay, let's control the violence against women. Let's grant women their rights and have in granting their kids the nationality if they are married to non-Lebanese. Here you are trying to dissect the problem. The core problem is we have a genuine discrimination in how our society, our legislators look at the status of women, which is not equal to men. And that is reflected in these courts. I have visited several religious courts in Lebanon, and I saw how women, from the moment they enter the door of these courts, are being treated as someone not equal, from forcing them to wear differently, from asking them to stand, from asking them to lower their voices, from intimidating them by men surrounding them in the court, asking them to tell their stories. And they are, most of the time, if they come from rural areas or from conservative background, they feel intimidated and not tell their stories. Youmna was talking about how to convince a woman to speak up. We find women unable even to tell what they have been going through. So to me, the core problem in Lebanon is to highlight what these discriminatory laws are doing to the lives of thousands and thousands of Lebanese women. And my role as a journalist is to reflect them, not only in Lebanon. That's why in Daraj, we try to cover this topic through films, through articles, through posts on social media. To me, this is, personally, I'm committed to this battle, that maybe on my daytime, maybe in the future, but this is where I think, and I will be working on. I've tried to work on in the past 10 years, and I will keep doing so, because to me, here is the real change, lies in changing these laws.
Thank you, Diana. So I'm going to move now to our final question, my final question, before we reconnect and open the floor for questions from the audience. So Mia, given that you work with youth and your work is, and you are in a youth-led, women-led organization, according to you, what are the biggest challenges ahead for the next generation of female leaders? And if you have a message that you'd like to pass on or to close with, what's your call for action to other women and the younger women out there?
I will send out a call of action that is a little bit based in psychology and mental health as well, because I think one of the main discussions that we also want to bring to the table today on International Women's Day is the role of women in representation and in more, I think, in places where women can lead on decision making. And after October 17, I think women have taken on much more proactive roles in representation and also in politics as a whole. Myself included, someone who did not think of being close to the political arena before is now realizing the importance of this and realizing that actually when we've been working for society for a very long time, we've also been doing politics in a different way. But unfortunately, we've learned that politics is defined by a certain category, it's defined by a certain look, it's defined by being a male-dominated position and role, and this has changed. But my message for women is that sometimes one of the biggest barriers to leading is ourselves, and it's the pressure that we put on ourselves to be good enough, to be perfect, to know everything before we go into a specific role, when we have a lot of capabilities that we often underlook or underestimate. So my message is not to feel guilty about not being able to do everything at once, to try to follow wherever our passion takes us. And if we find ourselves being able to do everything all together, it's okay. And if we find that our priorities might be shifting and changing slowly, and also to really try to follow where that takes us, even though it might be taking us from more traditional roles that we have been exposed to and that Diana talked about. And this is an internal struggle that we go through, trying to go away from feeling guilty that we're moving away from those traditional roles. So just to be mindful of that, notice it, and keep pushing where I think your heart takes you.
I'm not sure, Mufida, do we need to reconnect?
I think we can wait a bit and you can finish the final questions and then we reconnect. If I have to interrupt you, I will let you know on the spot.
Okay, because I can see the guy on the screen, Tim.
Okay, then I'll follow up, and once he calls on us, I will give you a call.
Okay, a call, okay. So we'll move to Amani. I hope I won't won't need to interrupt you again. Sorry, Amani.
No worries. We are all one, so don't worry. My final message would be to call all women and men to make a promise to dedicate our life to work towards achieving peace and gender equality. We young women leaders can change the world for better. For this, we need to promote dialogue between the different generations to bridge the intergenerational gap between the young and older feminists. We need to build on their previous achievements and learn from their struggles as we face similar and new ones, in order to create a new world where our rights and freedoms are protected and where our voice are heard. As young leaders, we need to reclaim our role taken away by a patriarchal system. In order to achieve gender equality, we need legislation. Yes, we need the will to fight for the elimination of discrimination between women and men, as inequality is considered the biggest issue threatening humanity. For all that it entails political, economic, and social violence against women. This violence is aggravated in all its forms, whether psychological, moral, physical, or sexual, in the light of crises and conflict. My message is to work towards protecting women from discrimination and violence through a legal framework, and to ensure that laws are being effectively enacted. In addition, we must work to implement and develop legislation that guarantees the active and effective participation of women in various decision-making positions, in addition to economic, social, and political fields far from discrimination. Yes, we need to enhance women's participation at all levels of decision-making in all fields during peace as well as conflict or crisis settings. My plea to all women is to take serious action in order to prevent conflict whether conflicts of security, environment, politics, and economics, and to take part in decision making without waiting for any invitation. So initiate and negotiate and lead operations of any kind. If the leadership of man has resulted in wars and destroyed nature and its resource through corrupt deals, then let our peaceful feminist struggle be part of the solution, and let us initiate real security and peace. Let us to be the desired change, and the sustainability of the change and peace remains impossible without the peaceful feminist movement and solidarity, working with man, with other minorities, within the limits of nature, not in conflict with the planet or each other, but towards a common good. We cannot prosper in the endeavors of humanity, nor realize peace, justice, equality, human dignity, and solutions to our environmental challenges without the meaningful participation of women in decision making.
Thank you,
Myriam.
Amani. Thank you. Youmna?
Yes, so my message would be fight to be seen and to be heard, because I think that half of the fight is to be able to speak and to be able to be heard, like to push the people in front of you to hear what you have to say. This is half of the fight. Second thing is that I would like to say is that when I started working, I used to think that women are not different from men, that we can do the same things, we can represent, we can be leaders, etc., etc. Now I say, no, women are different from men, and we should actually take this and fight with it, because when I look at the parliament, when I look at the legislations that are passed, when I look at the way judges rule, etc., etc., it is very clear for me that we are governed by laws that are done by men, for men, and applied by men. And so I do not think that I think that if we do not have more women that understand women issues, that understand things that are very important in our daily lives, how we are governed, how these things affect us in our daily lives, just as Jana was saying, we will not be able to move forward. So I think that we should not always say we are the same as men. I think that we should push forward in order to get recognition about what discrimination means and about how to fight discrimination. I mean, when you look at the legislation here, and when you look about this parliament made of a majority of men discussing about legislation of sexual harassment, early marriage, domestic violence, putting what they think should be put in these legislation, and never minding the people that these legislations affect and how they really translate in our daily life, I think this is just not acceptable, and we need to be upfront about it. We need to be heard, we need to be seen, and we need to be represented, and our voice needs to be there in parliament, in the judiciary, in government, because we are here and we should not just be governed, we also need to govern ourselves. And I just wanted to tell something to Carol, actually, because I remember after the Beirut blast, I went to a hospital because there was someone that needed actually to be taken care of in the hospital. And I remember while I was waiting outside, seeing Carol arriving with her camera and really fighting to get every image of the Beirut blast and what happened to the people there. And this was so inspiring. She did not see me, but I thought at this moment, among all the destruction, I thought, no, we are still fighting and we will keep fighting.
So what you have to say to that, Carol? And Shifty, you're inspiring people without even knowing. When I told her I want you to speak, قالت لي أنا مش leader. I'm not a leader, she said.
Youmna, you should have said hello, Youmna.
So Carol, the floor is yours.
I think yeah, I know, but as you know, Amani and Mia and Youmna said, I agree with all this, and I'm not going to add. I just want to say, you know, that we need to keep talking, keep telling the story. We need to listen to others, to make their voice, get out there. We need to stay humble, respect ourselves, respect the others, be kind to one another. I don't know, life is short, and we need to, take advantage of every minute and fight and just be a woman. This is what I have to say.
Thank you, Carol. Mufida, how are we faring? حدا قال لي to go live أو no?
No, we're good to go.
Okay.
Yani, you can continue.
I continue. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Diana, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to bring a small story that happened and we all watched a couple of days ago when we had a politician, a man and a woman being hosted on TV. And we all witnessed how this politician hinted a sexual assault against the female politician on air. And we have the host laughing at the scene. This incident happened a couple of days and nothing happened. No accountability, no backlash, nothing. Whereas if we see any female journalist not committing even, saying her opinion out loud, she will be faced by a huge backlash because she managed to say something within the political spectrum. So if you look at the two stories where we find the general media outlets, the leaders, the editorial lines are so much concerned by political balance, by sectarian sensitivity, and not paying any attention towards who those really attack women and sexually harass them live on screen, and nothing happened afterwards. Here, if you look at this culture, that means this battle is going on and will not stop soon. And this is why we are here, because we will not surrender. We will not stop talking and highlighting and pointing by the finger, and not only pointing, but showing how they are really abusing their power and how they are discriminating women from having their rights. I just wanted to highlight this example to see how it is integrated within society, even among the so-called public opinion leaders and those who are in forefront position in the media spectrum. To me, the struggle is still on, despite all the problems we have and despite all the frustration that we go through sometimes. I think it's an inevitable battle. I personally feel that I'm so much committed. I'm committed to the women I meet. All of you are meeting on a daily basis, whether from our surroundings or the people we meet in the streets. It's our obligation to tell the stories, to keep the demand and the protest against what we see as injustice towards women, to all people who are discriminated against. To me, it's a daily battle, and I will keep fighting for.
Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. Everything you said is so inspiring and boils down to the work that we do. We will keep fighting, of course, all of us collectively. It's obvious that each and every one of you works in an indirect way with each other on similar thematic teams that basically boils down to bringing about more equality and a just world and giving voice to women and giving her agency. So I think I need to recap soon, but let's see if there are any questions. Or Lina, is there anything you'd like to ask the panelists before I go to the question section and see?
Oh, for me, how wonderful. You know, I really would like just one word, one message from all of you for young women. You know, what's the one thing we can do today in our little space in our lives? I included myself as young woman. That was a nice slip. To be able to make some meaningful change. You know, there's this idea that there's so much to do and it's so overwhelming. And people ask me all the time, where do I start? And how do I do anything when the challenges seem insurmountable and increasing? So I think for young women especially, is there one action that they can take, and what might that specifically be? Or one message of solidarity, anything as short as possible. That's my question for everybody. I don't know who wants to take it on. But I'd love to hear it, because I'd like to actually do it too. We fight on so many levels at the same time, and it's impossible to see how gains are made and if they are made.
I think being on platforms like this is very important, and it encourages women who may be afraid, who might be struggling with the anxiety of pushing forward an agenda that they have, to know that there are other women who will be supporting them. And this is increasing with time, and I've been noticing it, and we've been seeing it in Lebanon. And one of the biggest things that we saw after October 17th is that the revolution that we witnessed in Lebanon has been women. And I think this has been pushing forward a lot of young girls to become leaders, to really speak their minds. And the revolution has been very much internal against everything that they've been afraid of. And this has really opened the door for so many young women to start speaking their mind.
Yes, I'd like to answer also. I mean, the question is very important, because I think we all experience it in our daily lives. Me as a lawyer, I experience it a lot, because when you look at the legal system here in Lebanon, you tell yourself, where do I start? It's so huge. And what I have learned through my experience is that I go case by case, and that the priority is my client, and I try to do the change in this case. And then I go to the other, and then I go to the other. And it is very important to listen to yourself and to your mind and the way that you think, because people will always, especially here, I don't know, probably in the world, but when they look at you, I don't know if it's because I'm a woman or not, but they will tell you what to think, they will tell you how to act, and they will tell you what to do legally. And what I learned is I have to shut this out and think by myself, and think like what my mind is telling me to do, what is the right thing to do according to me, what I have learned, what I have experienced, because I have learned a lot. I have worked. I managed to get a law degree, so I do not need this person to tell me what to do. I can benefit, of course, from counsel, etc. But no, I know what to do, and I have to do and think like what my mind is telling me to do. And I think that this makes a lot of change. It's just like you would be amazed to see how much you change in people's lives, just a bit by bit, case by case, and going case by case. It's not really big cases that you will have. It's little cases that will make a change in one's person's lives, and this is very important.
I usually come after Youmna, so I'm gonna talk. Youmna, you said something very interesting. The story of usually when I'm filming, or I have a camera person, or somebody would come next to me and tell me what to do. Like, why don't you put the camera here? And why don't you, maybe it's. So I look at them, I say, what do you do? He says, oh, he thinks I'm going to interview him. I'm a, accountant. I say, okay, go do your accountant and let me work, okay? So off maybe as a bit rude, but I feel I have no time to. But it is very important and very difficult to prove yourself and to trust that what you're thinking and feeling is correct. So this is what I wanted to say.
I love that. Actually, I want to just sneak in and say, rude is real. I think that's honest. Having no filter. We don't have time to have a filter. We don't have time to put this in polite language. You want polite language, you can read a UN document and it'll tell you how it strongly recommends and suggests and urges. We don't have time for that. I tell young women, it's okay to be angry. And if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. If you are sad about it, upset about it, that might be one phase of it. But sadness for me is paralysis. Anger is where the action is. And how are you going to channel that? Where are you you have to put it somewhere or you'll just explode. So for me, anger is a really useful emotion, I think.
Diana, do you want to add anything?
I agree totally with Lina that anger and frustration transforms you into action. And this is exactly what we need. And frankly, we have so many reasons to be angry. On a daily life, we have stories that really makes us angry and transform this anger into action. So I agree with that. Things cannot be calm and we cannot be polite. Politeness is, as Lina said, is for researchers. Let us focus more on action, and it's not like to take things into a more sleazy way, not at all. It's the passion that people reflect in the way they tell stories and the way they express their frustration out of what's happening around us.
So obviously, each and every one of you has a nice story to tell, a story of success. And what I liked most is that all of you said we. So when Mia was talking about herself, she was talking about we. Carol always included her partners in working with her. Amani spoke about the campaign in general, not herself. Youmna as well. Diana too. So each and every one of you in her own field has made a difference, definitely. We've talked about environmental activism and sustaining the environment, which is very important. We've talked about personal status codes and how damaging they are to women and how they rob women of a voice and the importance of women's voice. We spoke about how moving things from the realm of the closed door into the open space, whereby we talk about films and we basically recount stories, the importance. So there was so much shedding light, or a lot of things were highlighted regarding telling the story, recounting the story, giving women voice, giving women agency. We spoke also about the importance of mental health and talking about mental health and the importance of working collectively to exact change. Definitely the Beirut blast has been very damaging for all of us, and I personally think we wouldn't have survived any of this had we not had the support of all you women and the support of people around us in terms of talking, recounting our stories. And definitely I agree with you, Lina. It's not International Women's Day today, it's every day, and the struggle will always continue. And I know I've been working in this field for such a long time to know that the future is bright with the likes of you, all of you. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your supportive messages. Thank you for all the work that you do. As I said, this is the fight will not stop, as you all said as well. We will collectively always showcase the great work that you've done. To recap and to give something personal, so I remember when Carol first screened her film Made in Lebanon 1 and 2 at LAU, she also screened نحن مو هيك, or It's Not Who We Are. I remember when I worked closely with Diana on several issues of الرائدة, I've used بالعين المجردة in all of the courses that I teach, and a lot of professors do too as well. She's written about wars in الرائدة and written articles for us. She's always there to support us anytime I ask her to moderate anything. Youmna also has worked very closely with us, and she was part of a study that we did on personal status codes. Mia as well was interviewed by us, and we created a policy brief on mental health and situation of mental health in Lebanon. And Amani now is undergoing a training that we're giving in the name of the late Laura Mghaizil, who is a very famous human rights lawyer, whose thanks to all the work that she's done, we are now benefiting from the amendment of laws on all count. Amani was chosen as one of the trainees among 119 others. And we hope she will be selected for the round 2 of the training, where there'll be a specialized training on the effects of war on women and girls and everything related to that. So in a way, we're all connected. Thank you, Lina, for always being our mentor, for always writing sometimes things that we can't say, for always having the wit in doing it as well, and making it not sound too morbid. We're not nagging. We have the right to nag, because like we need to drum it into their heads that the situation is not going to change except if we continue talking about it and giving a voice to women. So I want to thank you all for joining us. There is nobody I would have liked to share a panel with than you, and to listen to your stories. And thank you for all the inspiring work that you do.